Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to a Battle of the Network Shows bonus episode. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rick. Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to be playing the TV Guide game. This is a game in which one of us looks at the TV Guide from Rick's vast accumulation of old TV guides, reads a night's programming out, and then we'll try to guess what the other person would watch.
Yes, this isn't so much a competitive game as a fun exercise.
So, in this case, since Rick has the TV guides, and since old TV guides make me sick to my stomach, he's going to... not just old TV guides, but old paper.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's going to... and frankly, we're recording this remotely, so less danger. But he's going to come up with the grid here, and come up with the schedule, and then try to guess what I would have watched. And
yes.
I frankly will try to guess what I would watch.
Right. All you listeners, maybe you would share some of Mike's picks, maybe not, but feel free to play along at home. All right, so we will begin, and let me just first say that this particular edition we're looking at is from March 1981, and it is the Dallas-Fort Worth edition of TV Guide. And one thing that makes that a little bit unique to us is Mike and I are used to the Eastern Standard Time zone, and these are from the Central Time Zone, so the times will be adjusted. So rather than adjust that, I'm just going to read them off as they were originally. So everything is an hour. Prime time begins at 7 o'clock in this market as opposed to 8 o'clock as it would out here. So keep that in mind, Mike. That shouldn't affect your selections, but I just want you to not be thrown off by that.
Right, yeah. Thank you for that warning, and I will keep that in mind. And what day of the week are we going to do?
Monday, March 30th, 1981. And there was something interesting that happened right around this time. I think actually the day before, maybe. And that was the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. And that changed some things around, changed things or didn't change things. And that was kind of looming over the country at this time. Yeah, the program wasn't directly related to that, but that was kind of like a current event at this time.
I just, wow, and I remember that happening. So certainly a big event in our young lives there.
Actually, now that I realize it, I think, so we're going to be modifying the TV Guide game a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I'm going to be presenting what was actually scheduled, but not everything happened the way it did because of that assassination attempt. So one thing in particular actually aired the next night. So let me just mention that. So the TV Guide went to publication before the assassination attempt, and there was one event that's going to be on here that was not affected, but there was one that was actually moved, but we're going to treat it as if it aired on that Monday night, and I'll explain that as we go. All right, so let's go with the one network that was not affected by that breaking news story. And that was CBS. So CBS led off the night with the Bugs Bunny Easter special at 7 o'clock, and there's a nice little close-up, or not a close-up, a display ad on the TV Guide that says, "What a revolting development. The Easter Bunny's too tired to make tracks for Easter. Will that be all, folks? Or will Bugs and his buddies hop to the rescue?" Starring Bugs Bunny with Daffy Duck, Foghorn Leghorn, Pepe Le Pew, Porky Pig, Sylvester and Tweety, Yosemite Sam. And in boldface under that it says, "A full hour of fun and surprises." And you kind of see a big hand that looks like Bugs Bunny's gloved hand carrying an Easter basket that includes Daffy and a Easter Bunny outfit, Foghorn Leghorn, and, curiously enough, Bugs Bunny himself is in that same basket. So that's an interesting illustration there. But that was CBS's way to kick off the night.
I'm a little disturbed imagining that right now, but
it's kind of surreal. You only see the hand with the glove. It's got to be Bugs Bunny carrying himself in an Easter basket.
Unless it's the Easter Bunny, a different bunny.
That could be. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be. But the glove is very conspicuous because it really looks like the identical glove. And actually, I think it's the identical illustration of the hand.
Oh boy.
Except Bugs is Bugs is also carrying an Easter basket, but this isn't an infinity illustration because Bugs is carrying eggs in his basket. At least the Bugs in the basket is carrying eggs in that basket.
Yes. So, yeah.
We'll scan this for the website, of course.
It's not Bugs carrying a basket of Looney Tunes characters carrying a basket of Looney Tunes characters.
It's not, but that would have been a great choice. I kind of wish it were, but that's not what's going on here. Okay, so after Bugs we go with MASH. Of course, it's Monday night, and on tonight's episode of MASH, while colleagues struggle with tough new assignments, Charles, David Ogden stars, becomes uncharacteristically introspective after a brush with death. What a way to follow up Bugs Bunny, eh? Seems like a nice transition there. After that, we go to House Calls. Charlie's initial jealousy turns to concern when he discovers that Anne's new relationship is with a charming patient, Robert Hogan, who is gravely ill. Wow, another great half hour of laughs on CBS. And House Calls is the Wayne Rogers, Lynn Redgrave medical sitcom. And if you haven't gotten enough laughs from Bugs Bunny in the 8 o'clock hour, at 9 o'clock, CBS ends the night with Lou Grant. And this episode is the denizens of the late shift become Lou's responsibility when the night editor phones in sick. And actually, I remember that episode pretty well. And that was a good one. I think it was actually called Night or Night Shift or something like that. But that is CBS. Lou Grant ending the night.
All right.
So let's move on to NBC. NBC had NCAA basketball, the championship game from Philadelphia. So this was the final event, or the final night of March Madness, which wasn't nearly the event it was then, but it was shown live. And this particular night was Indiana, but eventually beat the University of North Carolina. So this is NBC's live broadcast of the Final Four tournament finale. So the actual championship game from the Final Four.
And that's one of the things that got moved.
No, actually, that stayed on the same night, although they considered moving it but did not move it. And following that, they had scheduled, and it may have been bumped. I don't know if it actually went on at 10 o'clock, although sporting events, for a variety of reasons, didn't last as long back then. But after that, they had an episode of NBC Sports World. Heavyweights Chris McDonald and Steve Huntington, both of them undefeated, meet in a scheduled 6-round bout, taped February 22nd in Atlantic City. McDonald was the silver medalist at the U.S. Olympic boxing trials in Atlanta last year, and also a look at other young fighters. And Marv Albert is the host of this. And I think this is kind of interesting because the idea of boxing being on Monday in prime time is kind of weird. And not only that, it's a bout that was taped over a month ago, and they're showing this in prime time. Now, there's a reason for that, as we'll get to. But so NBC was following its basketball with boxing. Nowadays, they would expand the basketball coverage, and the network would just fill the whole night with it. Or at least they'd have a big pregame show, and so that they wouldn't have to put in anything like some kind of filler. It's possible that the reason they had this kind of thing was because they thought, well, if the basketball goes wrong, it's not a big deal to preempt it or cut into it. But that's what the NBC lineup is on this Monday night. So next we go to, and this is the thing where there were some changes made. This is ABC, which is Channel 8 in the Dallas market. It led off the night with a program called Show Business at 7 o'clock, and there's a cool little ad for this. It's the inside story of show business. David Frost and Sandy Hill show you a side of Hollywood only the insiders know, from fallen idols to rising stars, and as only the insiders can tell it. And there's some bullet points of what's covered in this special. Marilyn Monroe's death, suicide, or murder. What do John Travolta and Mary Tyler Moore have in common? Odder than ever, Lemon and Mathal together again. Pat Benatar, how the hot queen of rock made it to the top. And relentless paparazzi. And I think paparazzi is spelled wrong here in the ad, actually. Why the stars aren't smiling. And more. That's at 7 o'clock p.m. Following that, John Denver and George Burns in a special called Two of a Kind. And again, there's another ad here with nice little pictures of John Denver and George Burns. The description, a hilarious musical comedy reunion. Songs, vaudeville, and a whole lot of fun. That's 8 o'clock p.m. And it's brought to you by Lincoln Mercury and the 7-Up Company. Now, these are just two preludes into the main event. Or the original attended main event was, yes, the Academy Awards. So the Academy Awards were hosted by Johnny Carson that year, and these are the 1981 version, and that eventually did get moved to March 31st, so it actually aired the next night. They bumped it because of the presidential assassination attempt, but you still had Johnny Carson. There's a really cool full-page ad here without a lot of rigmarole around the picture of Johnny Carson. It's Johnny Carson smiling, wearing a tuxedo, holding up an Oscar. Of course, he was a multiple-time host, and the ad says Johnny Carson hosts the 53rd Annual Academy Awards, top stars, top music, the movies of 1980, special live, ABC at 9 p.m. on Channel 8.
The Oscars were only an hour?
Well, actually, they would be 2 hours, but I guess they would be expected to go on a little bit longer. But it is odd. So you had 2-hour-long specials, so it would be the equivalent of starting at 10 p.m.
Yeah, and going to midnight.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, weird.
And one thing that's odd is I think there's one page missing. I think the actual close-up analyzing that is missing, which would be the in-depth look from, because in the actual listings it says telecast live, see the close-up on page 856, which, much to my outrage, is not included in this. But there's a nice. It doesn't look like there's anything missing a page, but it's clearly not there. But there's a cool ad. I don't know if you remember offhand, Mike, but I can tell you what the big winner was at that particular Academy Awards show.
On Golden Pond.
I think that was the next year.
Okay.
Best Picture was Ordinary People.
Oh, okay.
And it won the most awards. The most nominations that year were The Elephant Man and Raging Bull.
Okay. And this seems like it might answer the question: what Mary Tyler Moore and John Travolta have in common?
Yes, and Henry Fonda did get an honorary Academy Award during the ceremony, and then next year he got Best Actor for On Golden Pond.
Okay.
Now, interesting, so the ceremony lasted 3 hours and 13 minutes.
Holy mackerel.
It aired March 31st. Now, it's possible. It's interesting, on the Wikipedia page, they have an ad saying Monday, March 30th, but it actually aired on March 31st. Maybe they bumped it up to 8 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
How that worked, but yeah, so De Niro, Sissy Spacek, Robert Redford won for Ordinary People. Those are some of the big winners.
I guess back then, people on the West Coast were putting down their foot and like, we're not going to go to an award show at 5 in the afternoon.
Right.
Whenever they start now.
Apparently not, because this was from the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles.
Bizarre.
If you want to add just one more choice, the independent station Channel 11 had Gunsmoke, a repeat at 7 o'clock, and then a movie at 8 o'clock called It Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time. I know I had never heard of that movie, but the description, it's a comedy, it's Canadian from 1975, and TV Guide says it's a complex bedroom farce centering on a divorced husband's efforts to win back his ex-wife, and it stars Anthony Newley and Stephanie Powers. And the PBS station had Newsday at 7 o'clock, Voices at 7:30, and Great Performances at 8 o'clock. And tonight, Great Performances was a performance of The Tempest from the San Francisco Ballet. Gene Kelly was the host of this episode of Great Performances. But yeah, little culture, an acclaimed version of The Tempest by the San Francisco Ballet Company. So there we go. That's the Monday night.
Yeah. I think I've made my picks.
Okay. And yes, we'll assume that the Oscars did go on as scheduled.
Okay. So I guess you need to figure out.
Well, to me, this is one of the easier ones, I think. I think it's an interesting night, but I'm going with...
it is a weird night, yeah.
Yes, it is. It's odd. I'm going with the Bugs Bunny Easter special at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Easter special?
I think so. Those kind of all blur together. And because they tended to kind of combine new material with older shorts, they blur together even more. Like the Halloween one stands out more, I think. But I remember all those being on a lot and watching them, certainly.
Yeah, I'm figuring that I would have watched this, but I really don't have memories of any of the individual specials.
Yeah.
Although I think probably for some of the same reasons that you mentioned, they kind of blur together a little bit. I don't particularly remember this one, but I think I would have been watching that as well. Let's see, at 8 o'clock, which would be 9 o'clock on the East Coast, but I'm going to go with the John Denver George Burns special.
Correct again.
I mean, those were accessible to all ages, I think, and that
yeah.
was...
And that's the period, I'm sure, definitely for me, that's the period that I came into awareness of George Burns. So, and I enjoyed watching his specials.
Do you remember the episode of the Wonder Years where Kevin talks as an adult about the time I became a man, the time I became aware of George Burns? For him, it was much earlier.
Yes, right, yeah.
I knew as Vietnam raged on that I always had George Burns. Somehow he was always there to get me through it.
And Winnie Cooper was my Gracie. She seems too smart for that.
Yeah, she'd really have to act.
I mean, I know Gracie was actually, that was an act too. But.
Right. It's off-brand for Danica McKellar, who's had a great post-Wonder Years career doing things that I can barely understand.
Yes.
It does seem weird to me that this is an ABC show, though, because I associate both these performers, John Denver. Maybe John Denver was more on ABC, but George Burns, I seem to remember him being on like CBS, and I don't remember him as an ABC guy at all. So that seems a little bizarre.
I would associate them with CBS, I guess. Was George Burns on NBC some too?
I think he was, yeah.
Like later?
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe they alternated his specials with Bob Hope specials.
Yeah. And
Give them both a break?
Maybe they did, yeah. I think George Burns actually later in the 80s had like because I just saw a promo for it. He had there was some kind of series of pilots. It was almost like a comedy anthology special he did for CBS.
Uh-huh.
And I know that I've seen promos too for at least one or two specials he did on CBS. But at the same time, yes, I know he did some for NBC as well. So ABC was the one network I didn't associate with him. So that is surprising to me.
NCAA championships on NBC is weird. too.
Yeah, I mean now it's perpetually on CBS and kind of Turner's involved now. But yeah, NBC. I guess this was back in the days when they had Dick Enberg, Al McGuire, and I think Billy Packer was still with them. So they had like a big team. But like I said, the tournament wasn't quite what it was yet. This was, I guess, Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers won this year. The next year was the year that North Carolina won Dean Smith's title with Michael Jordan. Freshman Michael Jordan helped hit the go ahead shot to win that game. But this year, unfortunately, North Carolina.
Okay, so the last hour.
Yes, the last hour, I'm going to go with the Oscars.
I put Lou Grant, but that's more now. So I don't know. That was like nothing felt quite right there. Like as a kid, I mean, I wouldn't have been up anyway. But if I had been, I don't know, maybe an hour of the Oscars. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a real split in the programming this night, but
Yeah.
that's definitely the more mature hour. Those choices: Lou Grant, the Oscars, a tape boxing,
Right.
ballet on PBS. Hopefully, you were satisfied by Bugs Bunny Easter Special because after that, there wasn't going to be that much on for you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an odd mix of things. Also, it's interesting that they put house calls on after match. Like, I wonder how Wayne Rogers felt about that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that's the way they did it. Actually, it makes sense to introduce a new comedy after an established one. But yeah, the Wayne Rogers that seems a little awkward. It's business, I guess.
Guess so. Yeah.
Maybe everybody was fine with it.
Maybe David Frost and that lady had the answers to that.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
only insiders would know.
I kind of regret choosing that for this night because I don't want to leave everybody hanging. But I think you did hit on one of the Mary Tyler Moore, the Mary Tyler Moore John Travolta connection. You may have gotten that. And maybe
I
eventually
assume
we
it's
can.
just I don't know. I guess it was just they were both in dramatic movies. They've been comedies. I really
That's a rather tenuous connection, isn't it?
Yes. They both started as dance. I don't know.
Well,
I can't think of any other ones.
maybe we'll put the crack research team into exploring that connection and maybe some of those other questions.
They both dated older women? No. Wait, that's
Well, wait, what? Really? Definitely have the research team look into this. So I'm learning some things here.
no. They were both bald? No.
No, I don't think so.
No. There was that one episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show where she told Lou up your nose with a rubber hose.
Oh, really? I think I might have missed that.
He didn't like that.
No. Didn't go over very well.
No.
I think I've got an assignment for the crack research team, but I was already going to have the team look into the mechanics of moving the Academy Awards a night because I find that interesting. But yeah, kind of a disruptive event. It's a pretty big deal to move the Oscars, and I think to me another thing that's bizarre is, well, if not for that event, the Oscars and the NCAA final would have gone on at the same night, at the same time.
Right.
And that would never happen today.
No.
And I guess it didn't happen then either.
Yeah.
But it might have happened in other years. I'm not sure.
And now we know John Hinckley's true motive.
What's that?
To increase the ratings of the NCAA basketball tournament
Ah,
by ensuring that the Oscars got bumped tonight.
what a twisted individual. It's a shame because in a way they played right into that by doing what he wanted.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that Ronald Reagan he was big on not negotiating with terrorists. I kind of think that he would have been opposed to.
Well, he was indisposed.
Yeah.
He was in surgery.
Well, didn't he make a quip? He didn't make a quip about the Academy Awards right while he was in surgery. It would have been like old Dutch to do that.
Yeah. Maybe now I'll finally get that Oscar.
Yeah. I mean, he was an old showbiz hand. He might have been a part of the show must go on kind of theory, but I wonder what Johnny Carson thought about that because it wouldn't have been easier for him to go out and at the time. I mean, we're kind of making a joke about it. Spoiler alert, folks, that Reagan pulled through.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I can't remember how up in the air the situation was at the time, and they probably had to make a decision at some point, and they just went on the side of caution, like we can't go out and make jokes about it.
Yeah, is that when Alexander Haig said he was in charge?
I think it is, yeah.
So, yeah, he must have made that decision.
Alexander Haig made the decision to move the Oscars.
Yeah. That's a federal decision.
Yeah. Yes.
It's in the Constitution.
Wow. Well, in that case...
Now, whether he was really in charge is another question. But, I mean, not technically he shouldn't have been. But,
no. Well, it's in general, I guess it's better if you're going to step up and be a leader to just say, I'm in charge, here's the decision, rather than assuming that I am, in fact, constitutionally running the country right now. I'm going to make the call to move the Oscars, assuming that I have the power that I am exercising here. He was a little bit more succinct. He cut to it.
Yeah.
Which was good. I think all the people in the film community, you'd think they would have appreciated that.
You think? I don't know. That would throw off your day. Maybe it happened early enough in the day and that all the stylists and stuff could relax.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like people were already sewed into dresses and all of that. And when they got told they didn't have anywhere to go for the night. Hey, yeah, definitely a strange night of TV. Oh well, you did pretty well though on your guesses.
I do think the event-based nature of this particular TV Guide game made it a little bit easier for me. The programming was not like a conventional night of programming. That might have made some of my guesses a little bit easier, and maybe made some of your choices a little bit easier.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, not everything there for a kid, but I would probably enjoy seeing that George Burns special now.
Yeah, that actually might be available somewhere. I know they did release some of those George Burns specials on DVD years ago, I believe. So I'm not sure what the ownership is, but yeah, George Burns and John Denver, of course, from Oh God,
Together again already.
and make quite a team.
They're part of the George Burns Renaissance.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, we did Sunshine Boys and then Oh God, Book Two, right?
hmm
But was there ever a period where he was out of the public view?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I would think like from the probably the mid '60s up until the late '70s. He might have been. I think I kind of think of the late '70s. I mean, when he had the country album
Right.
and the movies that you mentioned, but he didn't have I don't think he had a steady TV gig until those specials came about. And I think he was probably off the air for a while. Maybe he was doing like live performances, things like that. Because he did try to, he had a couple of sitcoms in the early 60s, but I don't know if he was as much a regular presence until then. I have to look into that. I'm curious about that now that you mention it. I'm not sure tell me that, David Frost, when did the George Burns Renaissance begin? I need the insiders who are going to have to tell me that.
Yes. And did David Frost hand over that mantle to Pat O'Brien?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not sure what the chain of ownership of the insider title is.
Yeah.
It might be something where I wonder if POB is as I call him. I wonder if he just kind of seized it because he saw there was an insider vacuum and just kind of jumped in and took it for himself. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that thing, it seemed like they were billing themselves as insiders, but not, they didn't call their show The Insider. So I think there's certainly a loophole there.
And it's interesting that there's no Barbara Walters special.
Right.
Because I thought those were a thing. They were a thing around this time, but maybe they weren't
Yeah.
like a traditional Oscar lead-in yet.
Right.
Maybe that became a thing later. I'll tell you who would have something to say about this whole insider debate is Rona Barrett,
Uh-huh.
who I guess was with NBC at the time. She probably has something to say about this and about quite a lot else too.
Yeah, I bet she knew some of that same information.
Yeah, she might have thought some of those things were rather pedestrian. She's like, I told my fans knew about this already.
Yeah, so Marilyn Monroe, and we know they didn't answer that question
Probably not.
definitively. And the Travolta, Mary Tyler Moore. What were the other things? One was certain. Oh, it was just like Pat Benatar's new album or something.
Yeah, well, how she made it to the top.
Oh yeah,
The hot queen of rock. Then there was Lemon and Math out together again, odder than ever.
right.
So not really a mystery there, but just they're going to give you a look at them, I guess. And the relentless paparazzi, why the stars aren't smiling.
Some stories never change.
Yeah. And David Frost has a surprisingly jovial look in his face in this ad, I will say. He's really looking forward to getting the inside story of show business.
All right.
Getting it, giving it, however, as long as he's involved with it, he's happy, I think.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Michael Sheen recently, and he was talking about, playing him in Frost Nixon, and how on stage, how in England, of course, everyone was very tuned in to David Frost and what he meant represented there. And then in the U.S., it was all about Nixon. And the U.S. sort of perception of David Frost is very different than the British perception of him.
Huh, interesting.
Like we kind of think of him as, I don't know, or did like almost like a sophisticated British intellectual or something.
Yeah. But not the case over there?
No, not as much.
No. Well, I now think of him as a show business insider.
Yes, me too.
No,
I don't know how he became one.
Yeah, whole new look at David Frost. Maybe that was the follow-up special next year.
Yeah.
How David Frost became a show business insider.
Right. Kissing up and taking names.
I think we know who might have taken the mantle from that aspect of it.
Yep.
Not just Pat O'Brien, but some others might have been keeping a watchful eye on David Frost and his techniques.
Yes, I think so. I guess we should wrap up this TV Guide game now.
Yeah, that was quite a TV Guide game.
Yeah.
Thanks for participating, and
Sure.
hopefully everyone at home was able to play along and see what they would have selected that night.
Yeah.
If you have any of the answers to these pressing showbiz questions, let us know. Or if you just want to talk about if you remember this night of television and the whole moving of the Oscars and everything, let us know that.
Or did anybody stay up to watch the Oscars back then?
Yeah.
On the East Coast, at least. Because that means on the East Coast it was starting at, we already talked
At
about
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it wasn't over till almost 1:30.
Yeah.
I mean, now it starts at like 8 o'clock and it's not over till 1:30. But
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
okay, we promise not to ever schedule this podcast that late.
No. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.